Oh yeah.
Nope. I am a perfect lady. Perfect lady. And a 20 on the desk. Can you see my shit? 40,000 followers. Oh, you can't do HDMI?
Well, the thing is, it screws up the signal. It wants to do copy protection. You have your dongle with you?
Not with me. Yeah, yeah, I got it. I'm gonna have to, like, fucking ram. All right, sweet. Okay, all right, I got it. Oh my God, where's everything at? So I got it? Sweet. You're not allowed to leave. I'll go really, really fast. I'm a fast talker usually anyways, so I also thought I had 50 minutes, so I bulked up all my slides, and then found out I had 30. And now I have 15, so this is just like DEF CON all over again. Just like...
You're welcome.
Thank you. It's great. I got on stage with 7 minutes to do a half-hour talk. All right, so this is called Where to Start When Your Environment is, because my kids are around here somewhere, so I'm going to be really, really trying not to say anything bad up here. I'm in the process, a little precursor, I'm in the process of writing a book kind of around this talk with my co-author Lee Brotherson. So this is kind of just an overview of what the book is going to be about. And this isn't working. Okay, I'm just going to use my keyboard. So this is me, Amanda, Info Sister. So the idea is a lot of us, I've seen it in enterprise environment again and again. You kind of walk into, oh, thank you. You kind of walk into an environment or you're handed an environment and say, hey, we're doing security now. And nobody's done security before. Maybe they took like a Microsoft boot camp and thought that they knew everything about their network. Thank you. Okay, sweet. Thank you. This is for those people. This is for the sysadmins out there. This is for the telecom guy that got handed a security department. All the best practices that you should be doing in your environment that 90% of the people out there aren't doing already. If you go out and do assessments, say you're doing a vuln assessment or you're hired to go out to any of these companies, it's the stuff that you're saying over and over and over again. It's the templates that you have in your report saying, yep, this, they have Windows XP on their environment still. We'll give them the template of, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. One of the first things that you should do, and I've even done this before I've started working for a company to find out how bad off they are, is you can go to Shodan.io. It's basically a search engine for anything on the internet. So when you see anything about like Internet of Things, this is how you can find gas station information. That people have their gas pumps online. People have billboards online. People have X-ray machines online. You name it, you can find it on Shodan with some simple queries. All of that's free. The reporting costs you sometimes. You can pay for some reporting. The creator just created a book that you can download. It's like an ebook that you can get. Kind of teaches you a little bit about Shodan. Aaron.net, I've actually use that. You look up the company that you're going to work for, that you're going to do the penetration or assessment on, and you can find what IP addresses that they use. Take that, and then you can plug those into Shodan and see what all lies on top of those IP addresses. There's some good OSINT pieces of software that you can use that will scrape like LinkedIn and Google and stuff like that for email addresses. The attackers will use a lot for phishing. And then see what's on your company website. Just plain OSINT, seeing what's out there. And OSINT is open source intelligence. A lot of people have problems with upper management. And I mean, as Wolf said and as Eddie said, you have to know how to talk to them. You can't just go in there. I'm not going to, go over everything that they already went over, but you can't really just go in there and, spew off all the technical data. You actually have to know how to converse with them on their level, find out what's actually important to them. You might be trying to protect things that they don't really care about. You want to find what the business assets are that you're going to want to try and protect. All right. I hate putting this much text on a slide, but I really like this quote. So I'm going to read it, because last time I didn't, I got yelled at.
Read it.
So I'm going to read it really slow. No. Many attacks on internet and network systems have no particular target. The attacker simply sends a large broadcast that uses any unprotected system as a staging point, so like bots, botnets, from which to launch an attack. Using computers without basic protections like firewalls, antivirus software, and user education not only affects your own business, but many other businesses as the viruses spread around the internet. So then you can be attacked by a botnet and become a botnet. Your system's lack of protection makes you a target. It can destroy your computer, your network, and can contribute to a virus distribution that slows or halts portions of the internet. All of us who use the internet have a responsibility to help create a culture of security that will enhance consumer and business confidence. But most importantly, failing to heed best practice advice could hurt your company significantly. So many people don't abide by best practices. That's one of the reasons that we're writing a book. There is no good book on best practice blue team security. There's really specific like network security or OWASP or really, really deep dives into that kind of stuff, but there's no overall best practice when it comes to I don't know where to even start at. So we're going to go over a couple slides of the free and easy stuff that you can do right away. You don't want to start in your security department and automatically go to the CTO and say, I'm just going to need Splunk licenses and a SIM and a couple $1 million so I can build my own data center and help secure you. There's absolutely nobody there's people that will do that, but it's probably not the best thing. You want to try and do all the things that are out there for free and that are easy to implement already. Like getting a trial vulnerability scanner. If you don't have any vulnerability scanning in your network already, you can get Nessus, you can get Nextpost, you can get a trial, at least get yourself so you know what your high vulnerabilities are. Make sure you have approval for that kind of stuff. But once they know it's free, at least for the first part of it, that's the difficult part. The money always talks. If you're in a Windows environment, best practice group policy objects. NIST has some great stuff out there that you can actually download group policy objects and apply them that are already security hardened, like disabling Microsoft macros, that kind of stuff. They have a whole bunch of different ones for different operating systems and that kind of stuff. As few as possible domain admins. So many people will give all of IT domain admin just because everything works then. That's a terrible idea, right? You don't want to hand somebody that has absolutely no idea what a FSMA role is the keys to the kingdom. I've seen where vendors have had domain admin access that were just like software vendors. Actually had domain, like an application server be promoted to a domain controller by a vendor because they were just domain admins and everybody else was, so it didn't matter. So getting that down to as few possible people that actually are Microsoft certified and know what they're talking about is also very good best practice. And that really long link that I thought I had saved to the end, but maybe not. I really hope this saved when I was editing it earlier. But this kind of talks about some attacks that you can do to capture domain admin credentials. They have some really good walkthroughs on how to mitigate that kind of stuff. Yeah, none of the shit that I did earlier saved. This is great. But that's all right, because that means it's a half an hour talk.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Oh, I think maybe I opened the wrong one. I'm giving the right talk, though, so that's the important part. EMET. Has anybody heard of EMET? Implemented it like organization-wide? Yeah, it's awesome. It should go on all of your endpoints, Windows boxes. I don't have anything for non-Windows, but what is it? The Enhanced Mitigation Experience Toolkit. Thank you. I always forget that. I don't know. It's a great preventative tool that you can put on kind of as a topper to antivirus. Really easy to deploy.
Yeah, I think it should prevent most.
ODay, yeah. A lot of ODay stuff it prevents.
Except that.
I don't even want to talk about that. I don't manage Windows anymore, so I don't care. No. I have only had a couple that I've run across. I had some people that were using like an old, outdated, like Access application that it had problems with. So you in group policy object, you can add like exceptions, so it doesn't like. If dep is screwing up with one of them, you can say, I don't want dep to run on this exe. But like a handful, like Photoshop, I think was another one. So like really weird ones. But for the most part, I mean, in the organization I rolled it out in, we had around 5,000 endpoints, probably a good 100 or 200 applications, and only a handful of issues. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. And actually, TrustedSec has a really good blog post on how to script it and send it out, so you don't have to do it by hand like we did. Disabling Telnet on everything. You should always be using SSH. I had a good screenshot for this next one, locking down logins over HTTP. So don't log in over HTTP, first off. And if you have something that's a protected device on the internet that only certain people are allowed to log into via HTTPS, you should also not let the whole internet try and bang on it on that port. It should just be the people that are supposed to be. Don't store plain text passwords. Actually had a coworker of mine store all of our internal passwords in a password protected Excel spreadsheet, which doesn't matter, like it got cracked in seconds. No open Wi-Fi, especially if you don't have segmentation and it's already connected to like all of your internal stuff. You don't want that open. Switch to SSLv3. Drown just came out, 2 days ago or something like that, which was an SSLv2 exploit. I think I read like 39% of HTTPS websites still accept SSL version 2, which is insane. Like it's pretty easy to disable in most back-end web servers, so that's a big one, disabling SSL. Like we have problems getting customers to disable it just due to backwards compatibility, but it's been insecure for 20 years, something like that, so there's no reason to have it still enabled. No shutting ports that are used and setting up port security. So sorry. Better than 2. I guess it's better than 2. It's still crappy, right? Right. So, right. Oh, maybe. Yeah. Sorry, that's what I meant.
I think version 3
Right.
You are still right.
Yes. Which is in a lot of cases. I mean, you shouldn't be, but in a lot of cases, people are using XP still. Yeah. 2. Right. Right.
Yeah, that's, you're not supposed to be using that either. Well, right.
All of SSL is broken. Just send it in plain text.
Don't do plain text and don't do SSL. You put a support in there.
Right. Right. Yeah. Which I mean, I've seen a lot, unfortunately. I mean, people still trying to support 2000, Windows NT. It's ridiculous. Probably on a lot of the chicken systems, it's just NT, right? No shutting ports that are unused, so you don't want to be able to just walk up and plug in your stuff and be on the LAN. You also don't want to be able to walk up, unplug somebody else's stuff, and plug into the LAN. I've majorly worked with Cisco stuff, so I know setting up port security on Cisco is pretty easy. I don't know about anything else. Centralized logins, so TACX or Radius. TACX doesn't have the best security either. It's all hashed with MD5, so that's on the back end. It's not the greatest, but it's better than nothing. Better to just be able to disable somebody than have to log in everywhere and try and remove their accounts. You don't want to show up and say, oh, you know, that net admin hasn't been here for 5-10 years, but they still have an active account listed. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones I had added on here. So URL scan is something that you can add to IIS that'll prevent attackers trying to send specially crafted like URLs to it and mess up your sites. There's like mod security for Linux and fail to ban that'll ban like too many connections trying to connect to Apache. Those are all really super simple to install. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. I haven't had a whole lot of applications actually mess up because of those 3, but mod security can be a little finicky when it comes to that kind of stuff. Some kind of encryption for your your portable devices, especially if you're in healthcare or financial, and if you have any sensitive data on your laptop, it's way easier to just get it encrypted. A lot of people skip patching their Linux boxes because it's Linux, and then always regen your. Oh, I skipped one, didn't I? Network device configuration backups is a good thing to do, especially when you're trying to track changes and say you have a rogue net admin that decides that they are just pissed off and they want to, add a whole bunch of stuff before they leave. There's different things that you can have set up that'll alert you to those changes and automatically save backups before the changes, that kind of stuff. Patching Linux boxes and then regenning SSH keys from default and not sharing SSH keys across devices. Like if you do cloning and that kind of stuff. Yay. So I'm a big purple teamer. I really like doing, my own setting up my own internal type red team stuff, so you don't have to rely on the once a year pen test that you get. Right? You will kind of want to spot check your own stuff. So getting your own purple team and knowing more about red teaming as a blue teamer always helps as well, just so you know what you kind of have to protect against. Having differing local admin passwords. I've been a couple places where the admin password on 8,000 devices is the same. Servers, switches, PCs, you name it, all have the same local admin password because nobody ever uses it, but one end user finds it out, and how are you going to possibly change all of that kind of stuff when, some of it you might not even have access to anymore. And then least privileges is something that we all like to preach, but is really hard to practice sometimes. So that's why it's under the not completely easy. I've tried to set up least privilege when it comes to rights in Active Directory, and just to hear application people bitch about that over and over and over again is just difficult. Right? So totally red team, blue team feud type thing. I don't know why I have this under policies. I think this might have been one of the other ones that I changed. I mean, policies are good. I got nothing. Yeah, right? It's kind of like whose slide is it anyways with my own slides. But this is one of my kids' favorite movies, and I love this quote when it comes to blue team, red team. Because everybody wants to do red team, everybody wants to be a pen tester. I talked to somebody the other day that was just getting in the industry, and like, man, I really would really like to pen test. I'm like, well, everybody says that until you find out that, I don't know, who's a pen tester and how much of it is writing reports versus how much of it is actually doing the pen testing. You have to like to write, I guess. But it is cooler. It's pretty badass. And this was already covered in two, at least, of the 3 talks. Segmentation. Right. I don't even have to go over the slide. You already know about segmentation. But good segmentation. So you don't want, your database servers out on the internet. You want to delineate for more than just a broadcast domain. You want your PCs all on one, or you can even segment it out if you're a larger organization to more than that. So you can have all of accounting on one VLAN with ACLs in between that, and the server VLAN that has, all of its ACLs, and there's a database VLAN that also has controls in place. If there's a PCI network, you're going to want even a firewall in between and not necessarily just access control. And I already talked about Active Directory. So, some of the more expensive stuff. After you showed all of that free shit to your upper level management, do you finally have a budget? Like, that's the important part. You can't really do any of this stuff if they don't give you any budget. But after you show them all of that free stuff that you're able to do, pending them giving you the approval to do it, then they might have a little bit more buy-in after you can show them, hey, we were vulnerable to all of this stuff, which we've already done our due diligence, we've already fixed, we've already implemented all of the stuff that we possibly can do. We need to go the next step because there's still so much more out there that we could fix with a little bit more money. So many places don't have real vulnerability scanners. They just rely on their pen tests every year. Sometimes they're not even pen tests. Sometimes it's just a vulnerability scan. You want to make sure that you have a real pen test, not just vulnerability scans, which are great too, because then you can have a professional tell you what your vulnerabilities are as opposed to just reading whatever Nessus spits out. But actually having somebody come in and break in and not just give you a report of the canned crap that's out there. A lot of that stuff you're not gonna get that on a Nessus report. And SIM, IDS, IPS will alert you on vulnerability scans coming from outside your network, computers that have viruses. You can send a whole bunch of crap into there to give you enough information on kind of the inner workings of what your network's doing, how it's talking. There's a lot of canned reporting out there when it comes to like Splunk and that kind of stuff. That'll give you a good idea. And 2-factor auth, not just for your important like IT admin people, but your 2-factor auth should be used for everybody that's coming in remotely. Not only everybody that's coming in remotely, but even for sorry, my child is threw me off. Michael, come up here and talk. Where are the other two? Okay. Well, talk to you later. Oh, shit. Yeah. Right? Breathe. All right. So 2-factor auth, where was I? Yeah. Yeah, not just remote logging. So if I'm trying to think who got Twitter to use two-factor auth. They were popped. J.P. Morgan Chase, I think, were popped in a couple years ago. After they were, Twitter started offering two-factor auth like 4 months later. Not everybody uses two-factor auth. So personally, I try and look for banks that use two-factor auth. I try and kind of steer my business towards that direction. And getting organized. IP address management. So there's databases out there that you can keep track of, you know, since people for some reason don't like to keep stuff in reverse DNS. If you want to, you can have it organized in an IP address management. Password safes, better than sticky notes. Incident response drills, and not only incident response drills, but also incident response tabletops. I was at one of those the other day. You pull all of the key stakeholders in. Say this one was they were getting a DDoS, and they also found out that one of their main database username and passwords had been compromised. Right? So not only did we have IT staff there, we also had legal, we had their asset management, everybody that we would have to alert or that would need to know about something like that. You kind of just walk through, make sure there were policies, make sure people knew who to call. And this isn't necessarily, I mean, this is free. This definitely isn't easy, especially if you, depending on the type of organization you're in and the communication that you have in between the different business units. And that's it. Any questions? You want lunch, right? I have to go find my children, so if you have any questions, just let me know. Yeah.